Hello, everyone. This is Jacqueline, and I'd love to welcome you to our Follow Your Heart series, where we are helping you to access greater joy, alignment, and a peaceful life. And most importantly, to be true to you. And today I am so excited to welcome our special guest, Suzanne Gunderson. And Suzanne is a holistic mentor and is a mentor to women with stress, anxiety, body tension, and trauma. She helps women to quit overthinking, lessen their stress and anxiety, and build their inner strength. Welcome, Suzanne, to our show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jacqueline. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure. So, Suzanne, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do as a holistic mentor.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. So, I grew up, I'll just get right to it. I grew up in a dysfunctional household like so many people did. And by the time I was in my early teen years, I was passing out from chronic anxiety. I became an emotional overeater. And by the time I graduated college, I was up of 450 pounds and using, 5 to 10 Xanax a day to cope with the stress of my life. And it just wasn't living. So in my early 30s, I moved away from all my triggers and came to a place where I felt more safe to be able to kind of unravel what was going on with me. And I found some amazing tools and skills that really helped me be able to uncover the intuitive truth about what was happening to me. That way I could transform it and shift into connecting to what it is that I really wanted to have in life. And some of the amazing tools I learned along the way were energy medicine, neuro-linguistic programming, hypnosis, sound healing, nervous system regulation therapy, and energy tapping. And all these things really combined helped me really have a different result in my life. And I was able to drop hundreds of pounds and get off all anxiety medication. And I've been living this way for about 10 years. And so while I spent the bulk of my life in the corporate world, I recently left to be able to just really live my passion, which was to help share women that, you too can transform.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing about your past experience and sharing as a holistic mentor as well. So as a holistic mentor, you are able to help others that are in similar situations?
Absolutely. I really, all those wonderful techniques I just mentioned to you, I really wanted to keep them as kind of a fluid language in my life. And so how I did that was just to create a small business for myself, because where I lived locally, there weren't people who really knew about that. And when I would share that with them, they kind of thought I was a little weird. So I just kind of had a small business doing this with women who were interested, or not just women, but anybody who was really interested in having a different result for themselves and trying something a little bit more holistic. And what came to me was, over the course of doing it for about 10 years, was that I really am looking for myself and my own clients. I was somebody who was very, very self-critical, who got stuck looping and overthinking, who really didn't have a very strong confidence and self-worth at an intimate, personal level in my heart for myself. Well, outwardly in the corporate world, it was a different identity, but for myself, I didn't feel that way. And so I really know now that who I really help the best is women who are like me, women who are self-critical, who are overthinkers, who get stuck in unworthiness programs and looping patterns, and who have, anxiety, whether that's a chronic anxiety or a social anxiety. I really know what that's like. And so I really can be in the trenches with them to help mentor them out of there. I'm not a coach to say, you can do it. I really go in there with the toolbox of this is how to get it done. And I will show you how to use these tools and how they were effective for me and how to implement them into your life to really make changes for yourself.
Beautiful. Well, I know that you talk a little bit about inner connections as well. What's been in the way of our having reliable inner connections up until now?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think our early developmental programming is something that's really at the core of a lot of the problems that we face in adulthood. And that is, we know this because when we have little children in our lives, we say, no, don't do that, do this. So we often condition children in our lives to behave a certain way, to speak and feel and think a certain way in order to be kind of acceptable. And that really is training them out of their own impulses and urges of how to stay connected with who they truly are, because it doesn't kind of fit what we need as adults. And so I think what we're realizing now as adults is that we had very heavy conditioning that we lived under to feel like we belonged and felt safe to groups and organizations and institutions and religions and cultures and families and jobs and everything. That truly was never really a fit for us, for who we really are. And so as those groups and et cetera start to dismantle in the world in our lives, we're really kind of needing to come back into who are we and how to build that rapport with ourselves again. And so having a reliable interconnection really means to honor who you truly are, to follow your own impulses and urges in the world, to know how you can speak authentically, best for how you're contributing, for yourself, for your own well-being, and for those around you with honor and grace.
Beautiful. Oh, I love that. Let's see. So how do we go about building the authentic interconnections?
Great question again. So all of that conditioning that I mentioned is kind of in the way. So I speak to a lot of women and I say, what do you want? And they say, well, I don't want this and I don't want that and I don't want this. I said, well, what do you want? Well, I don't want this and I don't want that. So really, what's in the way of building those interconnections is all of that other conditioning of how we've been operating in the world and how we think about things, what we believe about ourselves and about the world. And so how we go about, coming back into our own interconnection is to really transform those conditions. That way we can be much more aligned with what personally, who we are. And so tapping is one thing we're going to do a little bit today about, which is one of my favorite modalities. Tapping is a technique that will help us kind of get into what's in the way. That way we can clear it, transform it, disconnect from it, and we have space then to be able to have choice in what it is that we want to have in our life, for the way that we want to experience life.
Fantastic. Well, I know you have a lot of wonderful tools that you have to share with us, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
So what can building rapport with our inner senses do for us? So as we talk about building more stronger rapport and being true to us, what can building rapport with our inner senses do for us?
So our inner senses are truly, how we perceive and feel about life. Sometimes we see it through our eyes, we smell it, we taste it, we hear it, we touch it. Sometimes it's just that gut sense. And we really have been so heavily conditioned away from our own inner guidance system, our own inner senses, that, for to be polite in the world, to just kind of be accepted, or for whatever reason, whatever the reasons are. And so to rebuild rapport truly means, let's get really back to basics. I mean, truly, how many times a day does your body tell you that you have to go to the bathroom? And you go into a full-on negotiation with your body, no, I have to return 3 text messages and these phone calls and unpack the groceries from the car. And your body's like, okay, well, I'm just signaling to you what it is that, needs to happen here. It's eventually going to happen. But the mind then gets involved and tries to override our inner senses. And so having connection with our inner senses truly is going to help us be impulsed to know, take that right turn when you're driving and you say, I should go right here, and you don't turn right. And then you're like, oh, I knew I should have turned right there. Or picking up the phone and calling that person when you said, oh, I knew I should have called Jacqueline back the other day. I don't know why I didn't call her back. And now look what happened, So it's really building rapport with our inner senses to be able to honor those impulses and urges that we feel all the time, but we just override and override and override. And the body's just sitting here like, I got tons of messages for you. I got so much information. There's so much wisdom in here. Stop overthinking things. Stop overriding me. Really come home and let's work together, being more congruent between the mind and the body. That way we can really work, to get it is what the conscious mind wants. And then, unravel some of that unconscious programming to say, hey, let's upgrade. Let's upgrade from some of that outdated stuff that we're still operating from. And let's really get the life that we want. So coming into our internal senses is really as simply as, paying attention to, having an awareness of and paying attention to what we're seeing, feeling, hearing, sensing in our body, and then honoring what it is to have to share with that it's sharing with us in the moment that it is speaking to us, so that we're not overriding it with the mind and then regretting it later, or saying, oh, I just don't know how to trust my body. So it really is as simple as, hey, the next time your body tells you have to go to the bathroom, you should be like petting your body. Thank you so much for talking to me. Okay, great. I'm going to go and do that right now. What else do you want to tell me? What else do you want to tell me? And then believing your body when it has something to share with you.
Well, that is fantastic advice. The inner guidance system is such a powerful gift that we have, and truly, how often do people look outside of themselves for different answers, when a lot of times a lot of those answers are within us? So
yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I get a lot of women that call me and just say, I have chronic migraines, or I have failed relationships over and over again, or I'm always having to be an overgiver and take care of everybody else. I haven't had my needs met. And I just look at everyone as their own puzzle and saying, you put the puzzle together, but you're looking at the picture and it's not what you want to see. But you can rearrange the puzzle pieces in order to get a different picture of what it is that, is closer in alignment to who you truly are. And how we start to approach that is to first, have an awareness of what you're doing in your life. How are you speaking? How to yourself and to others? How are you acting? What's your behavior? What are your thoughts that you think about all day long about what your environment is, and whatever that environment is, your job or your family or your friends? Paying attention to what you're doing and slowing down your life enough to give yourself that opportunity to have that awareness. And then being, true and honest with yourself to say, yeah, I do have a bad attitude here. Or, yeah, I am a little bit, mean to myself here. Or, yeah, I didn't speak as kindly to that person then. Or, yeah, my chronic thoughts are always kind of negative and floating. And then once you have kind of an awareness picture, it's no judgment. It's just at that point, what do you do with that? You say, look, I'm just operating from outdated models. And we don't walk around with, old rotary phones anymore. We carry smartphones now. We're allowed to upgrade. We're allowed to install new programs to help us operate in the most relevant way to how the world is operating. But we need to know that all of what we've gathered as awareness of how we speak and feel and act and behave and think is just all based on old programming, old strategies that we developed over time that are just outdated, that need to transform in order for us to be relevant and being able to use kind of, have the latest technology in our own internal body software, and then from there, it's really practicing and practicing and practicing the new way to constantly see it from a different point of view. But the techniques I mentioned at the forefront of the call is really just to help us get there, because if it was just a matter of mind muscling, we'd be white knuckling our whole lives, and we don't have to do it that way. It doesn't have to be that hard. There's some really great things out there that can help us shift what's going on in the unconscious mind. That way we can start to install those new programs that we want.
Yeah, definitely. Being true to you can be the ultimate upgrade.
Right? And when you say that, I mean, it's so beautiful, but what is that going to affect? What's that going to shift in your life? I mean, you have to be willing to make whatever changes are necessary in order to live your authentic self, because like they say, the truth will set you free. And we know this because when we speak an honest truth to someone else, we often feel very liberated. But we walk around with so many masks all day long because of how we need to feel like we need to be appropriate in the world, and it's just not very heart-centered. It's not heart-centered living to be authentic. I mean, the world wants us to be authentic, and yet we don't give each other permission. So you have to give yourself permission first. Yeah. And sometimes that means not speaking to that friend, not going to that job anymore where you're being criticized by your boss, not being in that environment where it's not nurturing your heart tenderly, and making those choices for yourself, truly, to give yourself what you need as a priority, as opposed to maybe what anybody else is going to think. And that's not easy for a lot of people. But I think that that is the way to, that they say, like, you can't, the only way out is to go through. So you got to go through what it is. And even if that through means like you're going through hell, just keep going. You'll get to the other side as long, and the other side truly is you in that love heart space of who you truly are, being authentic.
Beautiful. And a lot of times we get stuck in our heads, and in that process of thinking.
Yeah.
And how do you propose people drop down into their hearts to that feeling space?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's where the tapping is such a great technique.
Mm-hmm.
And I call it the 3 M's of tapping. Tapping is rooted in Chinese medicine, which just really means that our body is energy and that we've got a momentum of energy in our body. And then tapping is also rooted in modern psychology, which is how we think and we learn and communicate. If I said the word car to you, you have a car in your mind. I don't know what color your car is or what model your car is. It's unique to you. But we have an attachment to those things that have meaning to us. And then lastly, tapping is rooted in neurobiology, which is all of those internal cellular wiring and programming and routines that our body creates and how we know how to do something. It's like, how do you know how to get to the grocery store? Do you go in your car and put GPS, like I need to go to the grocery store? No, you just get in your car and you go, because your body's on autopilot for it. So what tapping does is it helps you regulate the energy body through Chinese medicine. It helps us detach from that meaning of maybe it's a red car we're thinking about, maybe we now can make it white, It also helps us break the trends of those routines that our body typically goes through at a cellular level to give us that result that we're experiencing. So we're tapping and we're regulating the energy body, we're tapping and we're disconnecting from that intense meaning that we're so attached to. And then we're also disconnecting and breaking those trances of those programs that we have in our body. That way we have a total open pathway to what speed do I want to take this at? What meaning do I want to give to it? And what kind of programs do I want to have in my body? So that's how we kind of get out of our head and into our body and our heart space.
Fantastic. And that would also help shed those layers of dysfunction as well.
Absolutely, because all of that is just that conditioning on top of each other, and you're just trying to get in further to be able to, well, what's really in there? And I don't think a lot of us even truly know, but it's the journey to find out, to say, I know that this doesn't feel good. I know that when I talk to that person, I have to wear a mask or I have to behave a certain way. I don't like that. Mm-hmm. So that's the awareness part of just knowing what's going on with certain people in your situations in your life. That way you can let go of all those layers and that dysfunction that we're created and we're coping through. That way we don't have to cope anymore. We can just truly embody, being ourselves.
Beautiful. You talked a little bit about your journey and your transformation that occurred. I'm wondering about, I know there's a lot of people who struggle with weight issues. And do you feel that a lot of times we put on those layers of extra pounds to protect ourselves, to keep us insulated from the outside world?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think there's 2 reasons why people carry excess weight. One is that they had an experience where it was just the feeling that they had from that experience was so intense that they don't want to feel it. And so they want to numb from it. So how they disassociate from it is to just eat, to be able to get a heavier, dense feeling in their body, to not have to feel of what their experience is of that thing that was just so overwhelming to them. And the second is what you just mentioned, which is, if there is a worry or concern or fear of being out in the world and being exposed and being vulnerable, to feel those kinds of overwhelming things, or not maybe even feel safe in the world, then you would put on this weight in order to, or you would put on excess weight in order to kind of keep you secluded because you wouldn't, or not attractive, or not something that people would want to, be around. That way you would push off people just by the size of who you were. You would, isolate yourself for it. You would, feel like nobody, you get bigger and strong enough to be able to not have anybody, affect you. But I think it all comes from, I think deeply sensitive people have weight problems because they're really trying to numb the overwhelm and disassociate from their experience, the feelings that were so intense from them, as well as protecting themselves from vulnerability and further, feelings that they just don't know how to regulate. And you used a great word recently earlier about, being dysfunctional. Truly, when we are raised in environments that are not healthy, monkey see, monkey do. We learn from who it is that who our primary caregivers are. And if they had dysfunction in their bodies and their lives, we then inherit that too. And so it's our opportunity as adults to regulate that dysfunction, to be more functional for who we want to operate as in the world. And our symptom can be of weight. We can have a weight issue as a symptom of, I don't know how to feel safe in my body, because no one taught me to feel safe in my body, because no one was attuning to my needs, level of my experience of my body in the moment that I was experiencing threat and overwhelm. And, with life getting faster and faster, I just don't think we've got enough people going slow enough to attuning to each other's needs in a way that's, collaborative and communicative to make us receive those safety and trusting cues that we need in human communication to be able to learn how to regulate our bodies in the moment and not get overwhelmed and have to go and find a way to cope with it.
Beautiful. I want to honor you for your journey and all of the mentoring and beauty, helping people to see that they are beautiful inside and out, and helping them to make healthier choices so that they can feel safe and they can bring more of them into our world. Because I really do feel that is what our world needs right now. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for recognizing that. Yeah, absolutely. Did you want to try out some tapping at all?
Hey.
Or do a little bit of that, just to give you a little bit of an intro?
That would be beautiful.
So I'll just invite you right now to think of something that bothers you. And then as you do, just notice how it bothers you. Do you watch a movie in your mind? Do you maybe even hear some voices or sounds? Maybe you have some sensations you're experiencing in the body. Maybe you have all three of those. Maybe you just have one of them. Just notice whatever's bothering you and how you notice it. And then on a scale of 0 to 10, what number intensity would you give that experience?
For me, a 6.
A 6? Okay, good, because we want to find something that's about a 6 or higher.
Okay.
And then just aim at the part that stands out the most, whatever that is. And then while you're there, I want you to take your 2 fingers, either hand, it doesn't matter. And then you're going to tap between your eyebrows. Repeat out loud after me and just say, all this stress.
All this stress.
This thing that's bothering me.
This thing that's bothering me.
What it looks like.
What it looks like.
What it sounds like.
What it sounds like.
What it feels like.
What it feels like.
And then tap on the side of the eye and say out loud, this stress.
This stress.
This thing that bothers me.
This thing that bothers me.
The worst part of it.
The worst part of it.
How I create it.
How I create it.
Why I create it.
Why I create it.
Where it came from.
Where it came from.
What it means to me.
What it means to me.
And then tap under your eye. This thing that bothers me.
This thing that bothers me.
Wherever it came from.
Wherever it came from.
Whatever it means.
Whatever it means.
I'm willing right now to let it go.
I'm willing right now to let it go.
And then tap on your collarbones with your fingers and say, it always works out when you let it go.
Always works out when you let it go.
My choice to let it go.
My choice to let it go.
It's safe to let it go.
It's safe to let it go.
And I'm letting it go.
And I'm letting it go.
And then take one hand and squeeze the opposite wrist a couple times and take a nice easy breath. And then blow it out. And say the word clear.
Clear.
And then go back and check and notice, what number would you give it now? What stands out now?
Probably a 3.
Wow, right? 60 seconds later, the intensity is in half, right? And so that's what tapping really is.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. I know, I've done a lot of taps before, so this is a little bit different than what I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the difference? Is it just a different methodology, or?
I've been doing it for about 12, 15 years now. I keep going back and forth. I think about 12 years.
Okay.
And, I studied with, Emotional freedom technique with Gary Craig. I studied Robert Smith's faster EFT. I studied lots of NLP. I'm also, energy medicine. Basically, our bodies are energy, and we've got these rivers of energy that flow from our head to our feet, and they're called meridians. And on these meridians are many points, and there are hundreds of points all over the body, and they're all interconnected. And so no matter if you tap on one or the other or however many, there's other points that you could tap on. If you've seen tapping before, you might say, hey, she missed a couple points there. They're all interconnected, so you can't do this wrong.
Okay.
So I like to use the fight or flight big rivers of energy. So the between the eye point is the bladder meridian that represents emotional trauma. The side of the eye is the gallbladder, represents anger. Under the eye is the stomach, it represents anxiety. On the kidneys is fear. And you grab your whole wrist, and some people might tap on the side of their hand, some people might tap on each finger. Yep. I just like to grab the whole wrist because your meridians run under the bottom of your hand and the top of your hand out to your fingertips. So your thumb is the lung meridian, it represents grief. The index finger is the large intestine, represents stubbornness. The middle finger is the pericardium, represents jealousy. You skip the ring finger, go to the pinky on the side of the hand. It's the heart meridian, represents shock. And then here is the small intestine. It represents fear of a new experience. Instead of just tapping on one or on all the fingers, you grab the whole wrist and you squeeze it a couple of times, and you get all the meridians that run on the top and the bottom of your hand.
Fantastic.
A little science there for you.
That was the best 60-second introduction to tapping and the understanding of the points that I think I've ever experienced.
Oh, awesome. I'm glad. Yeah, your job is to focus on the thing that you don't want, which what it looks like, it sounds like, it smells like, it tastes like, it feels like.
Yeah.
And while you're there, focusing on that part that really stands out the worst, that's when you're the closest to the root of the energy body's experience of it. You're closest to the root of how you're attached and the meaning to it. You're closest to the root of how the programming works inside of you. And while you're tapping, what are you doing? You're regulating the speed of the energy body. You're disconnecting from the meaning, and you're breaking those internal programs and routines. That way you have a total choice in how you want to approach this thing that you're doing. When you're in the middle of it, it's like you're in the middle of a tornado and you have, you're out of control. Tornadoes are fast and wild and out of control. When you tap, you give yourself some perspective, calm down enough to be able to say, how do I really want to see this and perceive this in my life? It doesn't have to have that meaning. It doesn't have to have that kind of intensity. It doesn't have to have, we don't always have to go that way. We can go a different way.
Beautiful. And our choices create the life and the experience and the journey that we're on.
Absolutely, right? We're so conditioned to we're so overstimulated that we're just reacting and reacting and reacting all day long instead of really responding with choice. So tapping really offers us an opportunity to calm down the tornado going inside of us and have opportunity for choice.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you are such a contribution to everyone that you interact with, and I'm so blessed that you're with us today. I know that you have put together a video, 4
Yes.
easy steps to energy tapping, that you're giving away to all of our summit participants. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, absolutely. A little bit about what I shared today already about tapping, but I'll go in a little bit more detail about, where tapping came from, what the tapping points all mean, a little bit more about what I call the 3 M's of tapping, which are, momentum, meaning, and memory, which we just kind of went over. And then just the 4 easy steps of how to actually make tapping personally work for you. And I'll also include kind of the 1 secret to make tapping really super effective. So hopefully you go out and get that video and you can learn what that is.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And then you are also offering a 10% discount on your online program,
Yes.
6 shifts from stuck to unstoppable.
Absolutely, yes. So if you're interested, you can email me and let me know that you are part of the summit, and I will give you that 10% off on the program.
Okay, beautiful. Would you like to tell us a little bit about from stuck to unstoppable?
Right. So like I mentioned, I work with women who are self-critical, overthinkers, who have stress and anxiety, who are stuck in that mode of being. And however that might present itself to you in your life, maybe it's in a relationship, maybe it's a job, maybe it's I don't know my life purpose, or it's I just got divorced, I don't know, or maybe I'm an empty nester. So wherever it is that you're stuck, you want to be able to transform that, to be able to kind of loosen the grips on where you're stuck, to be able to become unleashed into being unstoppable for whatever it is that you want in your life. So, if it's weight, if it's finances, if it's relationship, if it's life purpose, the approach that I take women through is the same exact, but you pick the storyline of what you're going through. So we really kind of get in there, take a look and get awareness of what's happening in your life, or how you're speaking, thinking, feeling, operating in the world with behaviors and attitudes, and start to transform that through tapping, right? We do a lot of work with tapping. We do group tapping, we do one-on-one tapping with me, and by the end of the 6 weeks, you're at least seeing some major clarity on how it is that you're creating what it is that's going on in your life, and being able to take some steps toward having a new perspective about things.
Excellent. Now you have a Facebook group that people can connect with you. Do you want to tell us the name of that and how else people could connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a free online Facebook group called the Empowered Tapping Revolution. We're about 2,000 women strong and growing. I do live video on there just about every day. I take requests for, oh, Suzanne, I'm going through this today. Could you create a video for me? I said, sure. As well as it's an opportunity to have support and strategies, and a contribution from other women to really connect with their stress and struggle. And it's not a support group. It really is a group where we're actually effectively, giving ourselves permission to be the best version of ourselves, and giving, sharing the tools that work for us. So I provide a lot of educational bits and awareness information as to kind of share that, your struggle is not your fault, but is your opportunity, and take that opportunity and use these tools, and here's how we can help you transform. So yeah, I invite anybody who's interested to join that group. It's a free group, it's on Facebook, and it's a wonderful community.
Fantastic. Well, I'm actually a part of your community, and
Okay.
I want to thank you for all that you do share there, because I realize what a contribution it is, what a contribution you are to everyone. And also, I just wanted to say, what amazing contribution it would be to have a world filled with unstoppable women and men, and creating their lives from a space of joy, heart, and presence. And so thank you for being with us today on our Follow Your Heart series. And I welcome all of our audience to please continue to connecting in with you, Suzanne. Thank you.
Well, thanks. It's been my pleasure. I appreciate it.
And we're wishing you all a great day, and looking forward to seeing you here again on the next episode of Follow Your Heart.